I'm so glad to be back. Thank you for having me. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That is true. That is true. But by the grace of God, I'm still here and we just keep rocking it. Yeah. Yeah, we've done Butterball and Bumble and Amazon Prime and so many cool opportunities, which, is it's kind of interesting to watch because when I first got into the business of helping women with their friendships, I mean, I was quite literally kind of chuckled at when I first announced that I was going to take that career direction. So to see a growing interest in our relational health makes me really happy, and I'm so honored to be a part of that movement. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I hope that's one of many reasons why people begin to have a sense of urgency around uh, leaning into and tending to the quality of their platonic relationships. I think all too often, or at least 10 years ago, people kind of saw friendships as something you push into the margins. I'll get to it when I've got time. We see it as something too engaging when we want somebody to just hang out with and do something with recreationally. And that's all fun. And those are benefits of friendship. But when you start to see research around how it has a direct impact on your physical, mental, and emotional health, I hope that encourages us to tend to it with a little more fire, a little more urgency. I do. Yeah, yeah, that's true. The latest study I've seen said that 40% of people do not have a best friend. And hey, I get it, especially for women. The research tells us that women are more dyadic than men, meaning we tend to split off one to one. And that is one of the reasons why our friendships have more platonic intimacy because it's just me and you in this private vault where we're engaging in mutual self disclosure. So, to some degree, I understand the desire to be intimately known by another woman, and we have this unique, deep relationship. That is true. But I also see what you see around that pressure to find the person. I do think it makes us secretly audition women who we encounter. I do think that for some women, I've heard almost a sense of shame around not having one. Like, what's wrong with me that I don't have a bestie? Then we're forcing it with people who aren't meant to be. And we're discounting people who could still offer value to our lives, but they're not the perfect package. So I agree with you that it can be problematic depending on if we're holding it to like this high aspirational thing, because we might be missing out on a lot of the good stuff. Mm. The first is a mindset thing. So I have some technical stuff, but a mindset thing. And that is almost see being the new person as an advantage. So often we see it as a disadvantage. So we think, oh, I'm coming in late, I'm behind. Everybody else is their friendships are already formed. I hear that a lot. Well, everybody else already has. So I already see myself as coming in as a loss. But what if I saw it as a benefit? I'm here to experiment. I'm here to establish some new ties. I feel like when you're new, that's kind of an in. I mean, you can easily go to anyone and say, I'm new here. What do you recommend? People love giving their 2 cents. A lot of people actually gravitate toward the newbie, right? I know I do. And I'm like, girl, let me tell you everything you need to know, right? So start to see, okay, could this be an advantage, my position, a person people want to cling to and share with? And I have so many questions. So there's actually something kind of, you have kind of an edge being new. That's an advantage. The second thing, and this is a tip that comes from Dr. Marissa Franco, who's the author of the book Platonic, but she always says, expect to be liked. There's something known as the, gosh, what is it? There's this idea around, the acceptance prophecy. And the idea is that people who expect to be accepted typically are. And those who are anticipating rejection typically get it. And the way this works is because if I expect that I'm going to be liked when I'm here, I've probably got my eyes up. I'm probably unafraid to enter into conversations. I'm laughing, introducing myself because I know that you're going to like me. But if I expect you're going to reject me, whether it's because I think that other women are jealous, which I've heard women say, whether I think that there's just something about me that's not likable, or the people here are mean, I go in with my head down. I'm engaging in avoidant behaviors like just kind of scrolling on the phone. I'm not getting into conversations because I don't want to be a burden. So now others walk away like, wow, she didn't talk much. She wasn't smiling. And so it's almost a fulfilling prophecy. So I think those two things could be really helpful in kind of shifting the dynamics in the room. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I get it. I've been there too. I'd like to think I'm a confident, self-assured, charismatic woman. And there are times where I'm like, okay, like a little anxiety bubbling up, but I have to coach myself. That's a big part of it too. If you're thinking that everybody else has got it figured out and you don't, no, we all are trying to figure this out. Maybe we're confident in some scenarios more than others, but I've got to coach myself through in the moment and tell myself the same things I just shared. Okay, I got this. I'm just going to ask questions. There's probably some nice people here. I just need to show up. I've got to talk myself through walking in with my head up and with a smile just as much as anyone. And typically it tends to have positive outcomes. Mhm. hmm Yeah, that's great. When I'm working with clients, that's one of the things that we pause to talk about because they'll say, well, I don't know. It just feels so awkward. And I'll ask, okay, what is the worst thing you're expecting to happen? Like, what's the thing that you're hoping doesn't happen? Well, I don't know, that I walk up to the table and they like give me dirty look or look at me like I'm stupid for talking. And I'll say, okay, let's say they do. Because if we're being honest, that's totally a possibility. Then what? And then often the client will say, well, I mean, I guess I just walk away. That's right. So sometimes lean into the thing you're scared about happening to give you an opportunity to brainstorm how you'd respond. And we find that more than 90% of the time, oh, it's survivable, deeply uncomfortable, but survivable. And it kind of takes some of the power out of that worst case scenario. Yeah, it's tough because I know that a lot with the ubiquity of digital connections, then people are going to start forming what they identify as friendships. And who am I to say that's a real friend? That's not. I will say this: some things for people to consider. The first is, do you find that the way that you're engaging digitally with people is it supplementing your friendship landscape? Or is it replacing your friendship landscape? That's the main question because I'm not here to qualify your friendship, but that's a big question. If I find that I'm turning to texting and calling and DMing you and this and that, and I'm liking and commenting and sharing, and I'm like, yeah, I keep up with my friends, and that's the whole of our interactions, there's something wrong with that. Assuming this person's not, a long distance friend, there's something wrong with that. So it should be supplemental. It should not be a substitution. That's something to look at. Because I also wonder how that leans into, social anxiety because I'm not out with people. So now I'm scared going out with people. So, so it becomes like this cycle, right? And again, I know some people will say, well, I use it because, I'm never going to see this person. They're across the country. There are so many benefits. Thank God for the internet. It's creating certain communities for people who don't have that where they physically live. Maybe you have a certain faith or very niche interests or a child with a chronic illness, and these people get it and they don't live by you. Thank God for that you can feel affirmed and get support and be a resource. That's one aspect of your community. You still need people in person. And so that would be my main thing to help people kind of gauge their relationship with social media connections is it supplementing or is it replacing? Because that makes all the difference. Okay, so first I want to say that this is probably deep sigh, heavy sigh. There's so much there. First, I want to say that if I had to rank like the top three issues women bring to me, reciprocity is on that list. And that's consistent with the research that finds that that is something that women deeply value in their same sex friendships. Reciprocity, everything equal, everything balanced. I do wonder if some people are a bit more conscientious than others. When we look at the five, they call them the big five personality traits. One domain is conscientiousness, which means you're very aware of other situations and you feel very dutiful and systematic and organized. And so a part of that is feeling like showing up for others, keeping your word. I found that those people are more attuned to like, hey, I did this. Now, the right thing to do, or the obvious, nice, polite mannerable thing to do is they invite me. I think people who are more conscientious sense that and others might not. Okay. And the last thing I'll say is, to that person who's like, I really want reciprocity, if I can offer a little bit of ease and insight is, totally still desire that because friendships should feel balanced, and I'm never wondering if I'm more invested than the other person. 100%. A couple things to offer relief. The first is look for other ways the person might be contributing, because a lot of us are familiar with love languages. Maybe I'm showing up in a certain way, and because I value that, I'm looking for it back. Like I'm giving it, so I want it back. But is it possible that my friend showing up by being highly attentive to the things I share? She's following up. Hey, how was that doctor's appointment? Are you doing good? We laugh together. Is she thinking she is contributing? But it just doesn't mirror mine, so I'm dissatisfied. So look at that. Is she giving or not giving the way you like? The second step would be tell her the way you want her to give. Gosh darn it, you have permission. So often we are dissatisfied, but then we think, I shouldn't have to say it. It should be obvious. I shouldn't have to say it. But what I've noticed is we don't do that in any other relational context. We want something from our kids, we say it. We want something from our husband, we're like, babe, we need to talk. We are not feeling good with our employee. We have performance reviews, dedicated time to talk about our progress. But for some reason, we believe that in a friendship with another woman, she should just know that. And then when she doesn't, I'm silently penalizing her for it. And before I know it, we're drifting away. So package it. The last thing I'll say is package it as an invitation instead of an accusation. So instead of you never share, you never invite me, you never, no one's going to respond well to that. I wouldn't. But if it's like, hey, I know the last couple times we got together, I had you come over here, but I definitely want things to be balanced. So I'm happy to come to your place. I know you, I know that you're a good cook. I want to put my feet up and I want you to make me your special pot roast. It's playful, but my subtext is the same. It's your turn. But I'm saying it because I want more of you. I just would like it to look a little different. And the right people want the data on how to love you well. The wrong people will become indignant, and that says something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So first, that happens. The research says that we tend to replace half of our friends every 7 years. So I know that cycle of seven. I've even heard like your taste buds change every 7 years or something. So there's something about that number seven, right? But I hope that that shows us that there is this natural pruning that is happening. So if you're feeling ashamed about the friendship not working out, which I hear from a lot of women, they feel guilty or what's wrong with me that I can't keep a friendship. I see a lot of shame in that. Or if you're holding on to it for reasons of desperation way long past its expiration date, they're supposed to evolve. Okay. Now, on the same side, I want to say, because I've also worked with several women who are leaving at the sign of any discomfort or inconvenience. Now, is the issue really you don't know how to navigate conflicts really well? That's something else. Okay. If when you look at lots of your friendships, it ended when you got overwhelmed by the things that were bothering you and you said nothing, you get offended easily. So some of this is what's your capacity for friction and discomfort. Let's look at that. Okay. But assuming all that stuff's good and it really is time to let go, some indicators might be if you find that you are depleted after you guys spend time together. Okay. And I'm not talking like I'm so tired from laughing so hard. You're exhausted. You're exhausted. Whether she complains the whole time, didn't ask about you, she's talking about that traumatic thing again, and it's the only thing we talk about. It is tiring to get together. That says something. If you find that you don't like who you are in the friendship, because friendships activate different sides of ourselves. So if I'm thinking, man, I like who I am in other dynamics, but when we come together, I don't know, I don't like who I am. I find myself being tense or walking on eggshells. I find myself gossiping more than normal. I find myself getting a little snarky, but I don't do that with other people. But when I get with her, I'm snarky. Look at that. That says something. Are you growing here, right? If you find yourself fearful that if you were your full self or if you spoke up fully, you'd be penalized in some way. She operates in a very punitive way. That's too great a cost. That's too great a cost. And finally, if you find that the only reason you're staying is because you've been friends for so long, that's it. I think that's something worth looking at too, because she's taken up the space that somebody else could be in. I'm not saying it won't be painful. I'm not saying it won't cause discomfort, but those are some indicators to look at that maybe it might be time to release that relationship. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Oh, it definitely is. And I say this too because I know some people can be kind of flippant about friendship endings. Well, you know what? Well, now I'm cutting her off. I'm done with that. And I just want to say, for those who are having trouble with it but know it's time, I'm with you because we're not just saying goodbye to the bad stuff. You're also about to release the good stuff too. That's what makes it so difficult. So I'm not just, 2 years ago, I had a friendship that sunsetted and I felt a lot of embarrassment around it, if I'm being honest, because I thought, here I am doing this work and I can't make it work. So I felt the same things. And the reason it was so hard is even though this person was saying and doing things that were not okay and broke my trust, I also was really sad because we have inside jokes. We know each other's children. She has my back and has inspired me in a lot of ways, but it didn't feel safe. And so it was complicated and it was difficult. And that's often going to happen with women's friendships because the research shows that we integrate our women friends into our lives to the degree of a sibling, men to the degree of a cousin. So it is going to be hurtful when this ends because you're my sister, you're not just my friend. That's so interesting. I've heard both ways. So I've heard some introverts who enjoy people who can kind of move at their same pace. They feel comfortable. They feel like the other person just gets it. I've also seen a lot of people make jokes around how introverts make friends by attaching to an extrovert and they kind of do all the work for them. I think something to keep in mind if you are an introvert is one is don't think that you have to pretend to be an extrovert to make a bunch of friends. That's not true. Be yourself. However, there is research that shows that when introverts behave in a little bit more of an extroverted way, they do report a mood boost. Now, this is short term, but they do report feeling good when they act a little bit more extroverted. So take that tip into the friend making world. It might be helpful to you, but still be authentic to who you are. So some tips I would say if you're trying to like form new friendships as an introvert is try to do things that are in a space that's more comfortable to you, right? If you don't like parties, why are you going to a big old gathering to make friends? You don't have to. What are spaces that feel a little safer? Have control over that. Let yourself go for a short time period. So set a goal of, hey, I'm going to have two deep conversations with two people, and then I'm going to let myself go and then let myself go home and then plan something nice to go home to relax and to unwind, right? If you do that, you did great, but you don't have to overextend yourself in order to make and keep friends. You do have to step outside the box because it's a relationship, but it's okay to honor your energy. Yes, I do. We've been having that for maybe, oh my gosh, 5 years. Gosh, maybe like starting today, 5 years. And we just really dig into the complexities of women's friendships. What does the science have to say about the unique ways that women cooperate, communicate, and engage in conflict? That's our jam. Yep, yep. That's anywhere you get books. It's in Barnes and Nobles and Target.com and all the things fighting for our friendships. And it was just our way of trying to explain the mechanics of women's friendships. So that's the first half of the book is more analysis, and then the second half is application. So talking through 9 of women's most pressing platonic conflicts. And my goal is just to help somebody enjoy more satisfaction in their female friendships. That's the goal. No one's ever asked me that. I'm laughing because I'm actually envisioning my mom laughing at that. I was very social, yes. I don't think I was an awesome friend. My fifth grade teacher called my mom to tell on me because we formed a Spice Girls club. And I told some of the girls they couldn't be in it because there's only 5 Spice Girls. And my mom immediately made me go back to class, disband that group. And she was like, everybody can be in the group or no group at all. So she was always there to guide me. So I've learned a lot of lessons since then, I'd like to think. Mm. Oh, I totally agree with you. It was a journey. I started as a high school teacher and an academic department chair. So I'm working with 12th graders all day. But I noticed the number one thing they wanted to talk about was friendship issues, not even romantic stuff, not their grades, friend stuff. And then I left that world and I got into public relations and I'm working with these sharp, accomplished women. And then I learned, oh, behind closed doors, they also have some friendship stuff. So it's something that I've always been attuned to, but I grew curious and now I've been leveraging my background in education to study what the research has to say about women's connection. So it's always been something that my eyes see, that my heart's felt deeply. So I'm so grateful now to be doing this as my work. And I totally agree with you that it's really sweet when something's very aligned. And hopefully it's something I keep going. But I've learned that the longer you live, the more you are surprised. So who knows what it will be 20 years from now. Mm. Man, that actually like got me emotional for a second. I think if I could talk to myself 20 years ago, oof, I think that I would tell her, you're enough. You're enough. And not that you don't have room to improve. You should always be growing. But the striving to be funnier, more likable, smarter, to be as pretty as the other girls, to be as sharp. That striving is exhausting. And I wish that I could tell her, you really are enough. So always be growing, but who you've been designed to be is enough. I that would probably be my message. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time to facilitate this conversation, and I'm hoping that someone who's listening they feel more encouraged to go out there and to have some sense of agency, to be the author of their friendship story, and to allow themselves to be vulnerable and take the risk to pursue the kinds of friendships that they've been dreaming of. Yes, that's right. That's right. Thank you for having me.